flows from Benson Knott into the River Kent, and during Storm Desmond its flow became blocked and the beck caused a lot of flood damage to homes and businesses in Kendal. Now Cumbria Wildlife Trust have devised a natural flood defence scheme to slow down floodwater from stockbeck. This involves constructing willow hydro hedges, also known as leaky dams, and planting a lot of trees on the fell that slopes down into the old reservoir at Birds Park. Peter Bullard explains this plan to Kendal Conservation Volunteers.
This is a natural flood feature, part of a research project, and the aim is to store water here in heavy rainfall and when it's flooding, rather than it arriving in the middle of Kendal and flooding the middle of Kendal. This used to be a reservoir owned by it used to be owned by Kendal Town Council, and this used to be the only main supply of water to Kendal back in the 1860s. When this was no longer sufficient, they built another one, the upper reservoir, and then they built Fisher Tarns. They had 3 reservoirs. None of them are operational now, so United Utilities are giving us permission to store water in here. Each of the structures will hold some water behind it, and because it's a research project, we're looking at different techniques of building dams and different volumes of water being stored behind each of the dams. So Lancaster University have already put a flume in. They're also modelling the whole system. It's quite a small catchment that they're looking at. When there is a flood, they will be able to record how deep the water got and for how long, and then they'll compare that against their models. So each of the dams will hold something up to here about 40 centimetres of water. There's too many people to just work on this middle section doing mud, so I think some people should start willow planting straight away. And the Environment Agency wants us to plant them at 1 metre apart at the far end, 30 centimetres in the middle section, and then about 3 to 4 inches apart nearest to the stream. So that's an awful lot of willow going in. Yeah, that's this big. That's about 4 inches. If we can get them deeper than that, that will be better. Yeah. Because the challenge is that we want to actually bend them over and weave them onto one on the other side. Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Next,
that's absolutely perfect.
Next question. I mean, in that one, would you prefer it to be there so it's actually locking things in place?
6 inches from the log. Yep.
About
3
4
centimetres. Just remind me exactly what the substrate is that we're banging into, so that we got a feel.
Well, there's 2 theories. One is that the reservoir wall, when it was broken up, was just bulldozed up. That's the one theory. But most of the stuff I've seen recently, this looks very much like glacial
till.
Wow.
KCV began helping Peter construct the sequence of hydro hedges for 1 day a week throughout the winter, which proved to be one of the wettest ever. So progress was enthusiastic but slow.
I know, as I said, we're missing a hole here. I rest my case.
Come on, Pa, put your back into it. This is the second week that Kendal Conservation Volunteers have been working with Peter Bullard on this first leaky dam. The first week the weather was really bad and we had to call it quits halfway through the day. The weather's not a lot better today, but it's brighter and everyone's working hard. We all know what we're doing and we should get this dam done today.
Okay, 4 in each gap might do it.
So it's amazing that they've already started to root.
Good sign.
It's a very good sign. Some coming along now, see those? Right.
As work on the dam is coming along nicely, Mike, one of the forestry contractors, arrives to check with Peter where the next dam in the sequence should go.
So the last one I think should be down here, Mike. One here, one there.
Yeah,
and
we'll try and get three.
Yeah.
Three on the base.
Yeah.
And then definitely two.
Some parts of the dam construction are just straightforward, but as we've been moving around, we've created a lot of mud, which makes moving around difficult, but it's mud we need to tamp either side of the main tree trunks to create the dam. Now, since we were here last week, some of the mud has been washed through, but it is holding for the most part, and the pond in front of me here, which was, over the Wellingtons, is now dry. So where that water's going, I don't know, but it's obviously backing up around somewhere.
Today, the volunteers begin another part of the Natural Flood Defence Plan. Thousands of trees are to be planted on the fell above the old reservoir to hold back water that's heading for Stock Beck. A wide range of broadleaf species have been chosen.
I've divided the area up with tape which is partially blown away. So we're going to put an aspen grove here in this area here. The aspen is the most palatable of all the trees, so we're going to actually need to put tubes around all the aspen. Some of the trees are actually going to be protected. About 1 in 4 I think we can do. So I've got 300 of these, but we've got 1,000 trees. But the aspen, which is what we're doing up there, they're all going to be tubed, but mainly oaks I think is probably what you want to aim for with the tube.
Access to Bird Park is not easy. We are all raring to start planting trees, but first Peter has another job for us, collecting stakes and tubes from the drop-off point.
We finished this plot with hazel and hawthorn because we're underneath power lines, and we're moving on to the next plot just adjacent, and it's beginning to snow again.
Removing the plastic with the Swiss Army.
The snow flurry didn't last long, but now there was a concern that the willow might dry out in the cold east wind. The volunteers collected the stakes and immersed the ends in the beck until they were needed. It's full-length tree trunks that make up the main part of the hydro hedges. Some trees have been felled from where they've been growing, but others have been winched into place from a nearby larch grove. This is no job for volunteers, and it's been a tough job for the forestry contractors too. The tractor drags the logs up the slope. It's several hundred meters. The yellow nose cone stops the log digging into the woodland floor. Then the trunks are spun around and slid down to the floor of the old reservoir to form the basis for the leaky dams, hydro hedges. It looks like the leaky dams are beginning to fulfill their purpose.
On Sunday when it was raining really hard, I came down about 11 o'clock and behind it was water stored up.
Yeah.
and then by now it's all gone away again. So it's actually starting to function already, and that's water that comes off the slope here and gets trapped behind the log. We've still got to do some work on the stream to make the stream opening narrower so that it backs up from the middle as well as the sides. So that's what it looked like on Sunday. So that's water coming and building up behind it, and then as soon as it stops raining really, really hard, the water will then seeps away, so that when it starts raining again, it goes to fill up again. So it's a temporary storage idea.
KCV are experienced at planting trees, but Peter has some new ideas to try out.
Normally when you tree plant you don't ever use fertiliser, but some old foresters said they always used to lime, particularly oak and hazel, when they planted them. So I'm trying out an experiment to see whether these do better here with the lime than the ones we put in without the lime.
Today we have a special treat. The project has aroused the interest of a film crew from BBC Northwest Tonight. Peter explains how these new hydro hedges can hold the water of Stock Beck back and prevent it flooding property, as happened with Storm Desmond.
Right. We must be down to the base of the reservoir.
And then, after lunch, ITV Border are just as curious. But what does the Environment Agency think about this rather unconventional natural flood alleviation project?
Schemes like this are absolutely vital, both in terms of piloting natural flood management measures such as these hydro hedges and getting the scientific evidence as well. So there's the flume further downstream that will measure before, during and after these changes, so we can really understand whether natural flood management offers a longer term solution without having to build walls ever higher in Kendal. We'll need maybe a year or so's data just to really understand how much water's stored. These are living structures, so they will grow up over the next 10 years, and it might be over that sort of time period that we see some real changes. The techniques that are being used here are innovative, they are different, the site is different. A lot of the wood from here has come from around the local place. It's not about importing lots of material and lots of concrete. It's about using natural features and natural materials, where we are helping the rivers go back to a more natural process.
After week of splashing about in mud and rain, work had to stop because of coronavirus. But the willow that we planted on the last occasion we were here has all started to sprout, and we'll come back to it as soon as it's safe to do so.
We run these projects as partnership projects with landowners, with Cumbria Wildlife Trust and other partners, and they engage with lots of volunteers to help deliver these projects, and it's fantastic, and I'd just like to say a huge thank you for their time and efforts.
We'd all worked through one of the wettest winters, and then in one of the sunniest springs ever, finishing the sequence of hydro hedges and tree planting had to be halted. Individuals came back to check on the trees and knock back bracken that began sprouting around them. Come the autumn, Peter and his team will be back to complete this innovative natural flood defence scheme at Birds Park.